webinar. I'm very glad to see all of you. Today is an International Thank You Day, so I want to thank you for coming to listen to some new materials about writing comics and graphic novels. So we can start. Today is our webinar number 4 about writing comics and graphic novel. I want to tell you our agenda, our objectives. So first of all, we are to talk about the differences between comics and graphic novel. We'll discuss the plan, the best steps of writing comics, choosing a topic or idea, choosing the type of story, brainstorming and planning, creating characters, the use of language, plot and story arc, editing, revising and sharing. Our targets are creating useful material that will help your students develop their writing, unlocking their creative potential, also maybe unlocking creative potential of a teacher. Positive impact on your relationships with students, improving and broadening students' English, using AI. As you can see, a picture is worth 1,000 words, so it's really worth using in your lessons. I hope that will be very useful. So, what is the difference? The terms graphic novel and comics are often used interchangeably, but they have distinct characteristics. First of all, length and format. Comics are typically shorter and serialized, often published in short installments, in magazines or standalone issues. Graphic novels, on the other hand, are longer and presented as complete book-length stories, often in a single volume. Story complexity and depth. Graphic novels tend to have more complex and in-depth stories. They often explore deeper themes, character development, and narrative depth compared to the episodic nature of comics. Publication style. Comics are commonly published as single issues or in collections, often in a periodical format. Graphic novels are published as complete works, resembling a traditional novel or book. Artistic style and detail. Both comics and graphic novels utilize illustrations, but graphic novels often feature more detailed and sophisticated artwork. Artists may have more creative freedom and space to showcase their artistic skills in a graphic novel due to the longer format. Target audience and content. Comics can target various age groups and may cater to specific genres, including superhero, humor, or adventure. Novels cover a wide range of genres and themes and are often aimed at more mature audiences, though there are graphic novels for all age groups. As a form of literature due to their depth and complexity. Comics, although also well valued, may sometimes face misconceptions about their content being less serious or for younger audiences. Intent and narrative style. Comics may focus more on episodic storytelling, with each issue contributing to a larger narrative. Graphic novels have a deliberate, complete story arc from start to finish within a single volume, allowing for a more cohesive and immersive reading experience. While there is an overlap between the two forms, the distinction often lies in length, complexity, format, and depth of storytelling. Both use sequential art and storytelling, but differ in how they are presented, structured, and perceived within the literary and artistic spheres. You can see some videos about the differences of comics and graphic novels. You can utilize these videos at the beginning of your lessons for students to have such a bright start of the lesson to break the ice. A guide to creating fantastic comics. So, at the beginning of the course, you are to introduce your students to comics and graphic novels. The next step, choosing a topic or idea, choosing the type of the story, brainstorming and planning, creating memorable characters, the use of language, developing the plot and story arc, editing and revising, and the last step, sharing. Introduction to comics and graphic novels. At the first lessons, you are to begin by introducing the concept of comics and graphic novels. Show examples of different styles, layouts, and storytelling techniques. Discuss the unique features like panels, speech bubbles, and the combination of text and images. Introducing the concept of comics and graphic novels to pupils can be an exciting and engaging process. Here are some strategies to make the introduction accessible and captivating. Showcase diverse examples. Start by displaying a variety of comics and graphic novels that cater to different age groups and interests. Include classic comics, contemporary graphic novels, superhero stories, manga, and illustrated adaptations of popular books. This allows students to see the breadth and diversity within the medium. Interactive discussion. Engage the students in discussing what they already know about comics. Encourage them to share their favorite characters, stories, or movies related to comics. Ask open-ended questions to gauge their familiarity and expectations. Identify key elements. Break down the essential elements of comics, such as panels, gutters, speech bubbles, captions, and visual storytelling. Use examples to demonstrate how these elements convey a story visually. Explore artistic and narrative techniques. Highlight unique artistic styles and narrative techniques employed in comics. Discuss how artists use colors, layouts, and illustrations to evoke emotions and create a sense of movement. Show examples of how text and visuals complement each other to tell a story effectively. Read aloud or interactive reading. Choose an age-appropriate comic or graphic novel and conduct a read aloud session or interactive reading. Encourage students to follow along, paying attention to the visuals and how the story progresses through the panels. This helps them understand the sequential nature of comics. Create a mini comic together. As a group activity, create a simple mini comic strip or a one-page story. Allow students to contribute ideas for characters, settings, and plot. This hands-on experience helps them understand the process of creating a comic and allows for creative expression. Discuss themes and messages. Explore the themes and messages present in comics and graphic novels. Discuss how comics can address complex issues, emotions, and societal topics. Highlight the diversity of stories and genres available in the medium. Encourage exploration and reading. Provide access to a range of comics and graphic novels in the classroom or school library. Encourage students to explore and borrow comics that interest them. Allow time for independent reading or group discussions about what they have read. Understanding storytelling elements. Teach the fundamental elements of storytelling, such as character development, setting, plot, conflict, and resolution. Relate these elements to comics by analyzing examples and discussing how they are portrayed visually. Teaching the fundamental elements of storytelling in comic writing involves breaking down key concepts into manageable parts and demonstrating their application within the comics. Here's a step-by-step guide. Introduction to story elements. Character development. Setting the scene. Plot and story arcs. Conflict and resolution. Pacing and panel layout. Balancing text and visuals. Storyboarding and planning. analyzing existing comics, hands-on practice and feedback. Exploring visual language. Dive into the visual language of comics. Explain how to convey emotions, actions, and thoughts through drawings, facial expressions, and body language. Show how different panel layouts and sizes affect the pacing and mood of the story. Conveying emotions, actions, and thoughts through drawings, facial expressions, and body language in comics involves understanding visual cues and using them effectively. Here's a breakdown of how to do this. Facial expressions. Facial expressions are crucial for conveying emotions. Teach students the basics of drawing various facial expressions like joy, anger, sadness, fear, surprise, etc. Emphasize the use of eyebrows, eyes, mouth, and wrinkles to depict emotions vividly. Drawing different expressions and observe how slight changes can alter the emotion portrayed. Body language. Body language complements facial expressions and adds depth to emotions. Demonstrate how body posture, gestures, and stance convey emotions or thoughts. For instance, a character standing tall and open might denote confidence, while slumped shoulders might indicate sadness or defeat. Show how to use different body positions to reflect emotions effectively. Use of motion and action lines. Show how motion and action lines can imply movement and action in a static image. For instance, jagged lines emanating from a character might suggest speed or agitation. Demonstrate how to use lines to indicate the direction of movement or the impact of actions in a scene. Eyes and gaze. The eyes play a significant role in conveying emotions and intentions. Teach students about the importance of eye direction and gaze. Explain how looking up, down, to the side, or making eye contact with another character can express various emotions or thoughts, such as contemplation, suspicion, or focus. Dialogue and thought bubbles. Explain how thought bubbles and dialogue can complement visual cues. Teach students how to use thought bubbles to reveal a character's inner thoughts or feelings. Show how the font size, style, size, and placement of text can convey emotions or emphasis. Consistency in character design. Emphasize the importance of consistency in character design. Ensure that facial features and body language remain consistent throughout the comic to maintain the emotional continuity of the characters. Observation and reference. Encourage students to observe real-life interactions, facial expressions, and body language in different situations. Using references from life or photographs can help them accurately depict emotions and actions in their artwork. Practice and experimentation. Provide opportunities for students to practice and experiment with expressing emotions and actions in their own comic panels. Encourage them to try different styles and techniques to find what works best for them. Script writing and storyboarding. Guide students through the process of script writing for comics. Teach them how to write dialogue, narration, and descriptions for each panel. Encourage them to create a storyboard or rough sketches to plan the visual sequence of their stories. Guiding students through the process of script writing for comics involves breaking down the steps while encouraging creativity and attention to visual storytelling. Here's a step-by-step guide. Introduce comic strip elements. Begin by explaining the basic elements of a comic script, including panels, dialogue, captions, and sound effects. Show examples of scripts and finished comics to illustrate how the script translates into visuals. Storyboarding basics. Teach students how to create a storyboard or rough sketches to plan their comic. Emphasize the importance of visual storytelling and how the script translates into images. Encourage them to outline the sequence of events and experiment with panel layouts. Character and setting development. Guide students in developing characters and setting for their stories. Encourage them to create detailed character profiles, including appearances, personalities, motivations, and relationships. Similarly, prompt them to outline the world where the story takes place, structuring and narrative. Teach the concept of story structure, including the beginning, middle, and end. Discuss story arcs and how conflicts drive the plot forward. Encourage students to plan the pacing of their stories and ensure a clear narrative flow. Writing the script. Break down the script writing process step by step. Start with outlining the story, then guide students in scripting individual panels. Focus on clear and concise dialogue, effective descriptions, and transitions between panels. Dialogue and visual cues. Emphasize the importance of dialogue in comics. Teach students how to write dialogue that reveals character traits and advances in the plot. Show how visual cues and body language can supplement dialogue to convey emotions or actions. Storyboard review and reviewing. Allow students time and storyboards. Conduct peer review sessions where they can share their work in progress and provide feedback to each other. Encourage revisions to improve storytelling clarity and visual impact. Artistic direction and panel descriptions. Teach students how to provide clear instructions for artistic through panel descriptions. Show examples of how to describe visual compositions, camera angles, and scene transitions to guide the artist's interpretation. Integration of language skills. Integrate language skills by encouraging students to use descriptive language, varied vocabulary, and proper grammar in their scripts. Incorporate writing prompts and exercises focused on dialogue and narration. Final presentation and reflection. Have students finalize their scripts and share them with peers of the class. By following these steps and providing guidance throughout the process, students can develop their script writing skills and effectively translate their creative ideas into compelling comic narratives. Speaking about character and world building, we are to stop here and discuss some in-depth steps. Encourage students to develop unique characters and worlds for their comics. Have them brainstorm character traits, backgrounds, motivations, and relationships. Discuss how to visually depict these elements through design and illustration. Encouraging students to develop unique characters and roles for their comics involves fostering creativity while guiding them through the process. Here's a guide to help. Inspire creativity. Character development workshops. Visualize characters. World-building activities. Character interactions and relationships. Encourage diversity and uniqueness. Storytelling through characters. Provide feedback and guidance. Group collaboration and discussions. Celebration of unique ideas. Integration with language skills. Emphasize the connection between storytelling and language skills. Use writing prompts, vocabulary exercises, and grammar lessons that are tied to creating comics. Encourage students to use descriptive language and varied sentence structures in their scripts. Integrating vocabulary exercises and grammar lessons into creating comics can be an engaging way to reinforce language skills while fostering creativity. Here are ways to tie these elements together. Vocabulary building. Theme-based vocabulary. Introduce vocabulary related to comics and storytelling. Include words such as panel, gutter, speech bubble, caption, scene, action, and emotion. Create exercises where students match these words with their definitions or use them in sentences related to comics. Character descriptions and dialogues. Vocabulary expansion. Encourage students to develop detailed character descriptions using adjectives, nouns, and verbs. Prompt them to use a rich vocabulary to describe appearances, personalities, and actions of their characters. grammar in dialogue and narration. Grammar practice. Use dialogue and narration exercises to reinforce grammar rules. Encourage students to correctly structure sentences. Use punctuation marks in dialogue and apply verb tenses appropriately in narrations. For instance, practicing direct and indirect speech or past or present tense usage. I want to give you some hands-on activities to use during your lessons. At the end of the seminar, you have a bunch of links to different sites with ready-made comics on different topics, grammar materials. For example, these comics illustrate the usage of the topic my daily life and present simple. You can use such an activity as the teacher cuts apart the individual panels of a comic strip and puts them into an envelope. The students, either individually or in groups, then are asked to arrange the pieces into the proper sequence to tell the story, either in written form or as a speaking exercise. For more advanced learners, the task can be made more difficult by giving a different panel to each student in a group and asking students to describe to the rest of the group what is on their panels. The students should not show their pictures to each other until they have figured out the correct order for the panels. As you can see in this picture, there are some even follow-up activities to additionally brush up on grammar and vocabulary. Another activity can be, for example, when the teacher removes the speech or thought bubbles of the comic strips and hands out copies of both the comic strip and the text of the bubbles to the students. The student's task is to figure out the proper order of the speech or thoughts. Here we can see the simple present tense comics. And you can also remove, first students can read it and then you remove the speech bubbles and they are to illustrate these grammar rules, for example, general tools, permanent states, affirmative structures, negative structures, with their own examples, depending on the level of your students, right? Another activity is when the teacher hands out a comic strip from which the last panel is cut out. Students are asked to continue the story and come up with an ending. This can be a writing or speaking exercise and can be organized as either an individual or a group activity, depending on the needs of the students. A follow-up for this exercise could be that the students act out their stories in class. After acting out a story, they could continue it as a role-play activity. Role plays are useful for providing the teacher with feedback on how well the students learned the new language, grammar, vocabulary, etc. Besides, this activity reduces teacher talking time and facilitates the speech of the students. It is generally true that people are less inhibited to talk when they have a personality to hide behind. So when they play a role, they tend to forget about the surrounding circumstances, the classroom or the presence of the teacher. In this picture, you can see the illustration of a dialogue, the topic shopping, and for example, such an activity. Organize students into groups and give them a written story with missing information. First, the groups should discuss what might be missing from the text. Then the teacher gives them a comic strip version of the text. They must fill in the blanks in the written story by describing what they see in the pictures. After that, they are asked to think of speech and thought bubbles for the comic strip. Naturally, as a follow-up activity, they can act it out and continue the story as a role play. The variations of these kinds of activities are almost endless. They can be combined with other activities or used as supplementary material. In the picture, I have an illustration of a story, Don't Change the World, and it can be also used during the lessons with the lower levels of knowledge. For example, such an activity: put students into groups of 3-4, provide the groups with a copy of a comic with the dialogue removed, ask the students to brainstorm dialogue and add it to the panels using text balloons. Picture prompt activity instructions. Provide students with an interesting image from the comic. Provide a few brainstorming questions to get them started. Then give them time to create a short story based on your shared image. Such an activity sequencing and prediction. Give students a sequential comic strip with panel missing. Ask them to write the missing panel. It can be done in a group to promote target language use. Also, you can create different comics to investigate cross-cultural differences. For example, create a comic that compares your students' daily routines to an American student's daily routine. Ask your students to make a one-page comic of their daily routine and then make it a group work and use it as a class discussion, maybe to focus on the differences and similarities. Here you can see comics illustrating conditionals. Some speech bubbles are removed, and this is called grammar and vocabulary cloze activities. Excellent way to highlight or practice specific grammar or vocabulary items. Connect to specific grammar and vocabulary being taught. Advanced levels: remove a sentence or group of words. Remove words from one or more panels. Less advanced students provide choices of potential words. Interactive grammar games. Utilize online or in-class grammar games related to comics. Provide feedback on students' comic strips. Encourage students to reflect on how incorporating vocabulary and grammar elements improved their storytelling. Provide time for students to create their comics. Offer support and feedback as they work on their stories, helping them refine their scripts, improve artwork. Organize peer review sessions where students can share their work in progress with classmates. Give students the opportunity to present their finished comics or graphic novel excerpts to the class. This could involve a gallery walk, readings, or digital presentations. Allow time for reflection on the creative process and lessons learned. Celebrate the students' achievements by organizing a comic graphic novel showcase, where their work can be displayed or compiled into a class anthology. This promotes a sense of accomplishment and encourages a love for storytelling and art. Teaching comic writing, teaching pupils to write comic books and graphic novels offers a multidimensional approach to learning, combining artistic expression with storytelling and language skills. It provides a versatile and dynamic platform for students to explore their creativity while developing various academic and personal skills. I want to tell you that you can integrate comic writing with different subjects such as history. You can encourage students to research historical events and create comics that depict these events. For example, Civil War comics. Also, here are ways to integrate comic writing with literature. Encourage students to adapt literary works such as novels, short stories, or poems into comic format. Here we can see the example of the illustration, The Great Gatsby. AI can be a powerful tool in write comics by providing various forms of support and assistance. It can be used for idea generation and inspiration, storyboard creation, character and setting generation, grammar and writing assistance. You can use a lot of artificial intelligence art tools for your lessons. For example, AI, create a comic strip concept based on the government inspector, also known as the Inspector General or Revizor by Nikolai Gogol. And here, artificial intelligence gives you ideas for panels and scenes, captions. And students only have to use these ideas. It's important for the teacher to focus on the progress and efforts made rather than just the final outcome. It encourages a mindset that values the journey and continuous improvement rather than fixating on the end goal. Encourages students to share their stories with others, getting feedback from friends, family, teachers, and using it to make their stories even better. There are a lot of benefits of teaching pupils to write comic books and graphic novels, and it will definitely make your lessons brighter. I aimed to illustrate that by providing creative writing lessons to your students, you can nurture their originality, not just through the methodology employed, but also through your innovative teaching. Incorporating engaging games, fostering relevant discussions, and granting them choices can all contribute to your mission, enhancing your students' English proficiency. Thank you for coming today to my webinar. Our next webinar will be on writing blogs, newspaper articles. Thank you for your enduring patience. You can see and use some links and literature. I hope that this webinar was useful for you.